Thank you for coming on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon, something like that. Anyway, we're going to give you an introduction here to Zach, and he'll take it away from there. Zach is a Keller Williams Lab Advisor and a KWU International Master Faculty. His passion for education and communication shines in the classroom, where he uses a collaborative technique to find and develop your strengths. Zach understands how to develop individual skills and embraces the bold law. Your business grows to the extent that you do. Without further ado, Mr. Zach Yonger.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon. We can do better. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
That was epic. Okay, good. As was stated in that brilliant introduction, this class is going to be interactive. Are you guys okay with that?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, good. We are here to talk about technology. Yes?
Yes.
Yeah. This guy, Gary Keller, maybe heard of him. He's out on a mission right now to protect the industry, to protect the realtors, probably more importantly to protect the consumers. And I think by the time we're done here today, you'll understand what you can do practically to be a part of that mission, to be a part of protecting your clients, protecting their interest, and ultimately your interest in real estate transactions. But first off, what time are we here till?
5:30.
5:30? Okay, so you guys are planning on being here for 2 hours with me, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So we can do this two different ways. One, the old-fashioned way. What I mean by the old-fashioned way is I can stand up here and I can basically be very politically correct, and I can say what you need to hear, and I can kind of filter everything I say. Okay, that's one.
And why?
The second is my favorite, and that is that we just have a real conversation. I'm gonna be a little unfiltered. I might say stuff that's a little bit controversial, but this isn't being recorded onto the interweb live, is it?
No.
It's in a controlled group.
Private,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Good. That means I can be more open, which is the way I would prefer it to be. Is anybody not okay with that? Yeah, really.
Who raised their hand?
Always fun.
Yeah, there's always one time. So you guys are okay with that? If we
Yes.
if we just have an open conversation, dialogue, good. So first off, the class today is designed to be practical, hands-on stuff. So if your computer isn't charged, go plug it in now and charge it up. If you're precious battery and you're running out, you can close it. We're not going to need it for the next 20 minutes because we're going to talk about some things before we start poking away at our computers. Is that okay with all you guys? So you can save it. If you take notes on it, you can use it. I'm not offended at whatever that looks like. However, you won't need it for a little bit because first we have to talk a little bit about this. Before we do, in my intro, we kind of talked about training and faculty and labs and all that gibberish about Keller Williams stuff. I'm a realtor like you. I have a real estate team back in Sacramento, California. I am the technology director for our region, Northern California, Hawaii region. My job is to basically help our leaders in all of our market centers build better technology systems, build better technology training to support you, the realtors, to help you build bigger businesses, to help you protect your clients longer, better, faster, stronger. And so that's why I'm here. This was very short notice, and so I really appreciate you guys being here so short notice. I'm actually in Hawaii on vacation. My family is there, and I literally had a meeting that got canceled during my vacation, and I reached out to your leaders and said, hey, I'd love to come and just chat with some of your agents. And Lisa, being the epic leader that she was like, yes, okay, yes, go. And it was done. And so I'm really excited to be here with you guys. And she said, I really want to focus on touch campaigns and what Command can do practically in our business. And before we do this, Millionaire Real Estate Agent. By show of hands, who's read this book? Good, almost everyone. Here's my first controversial moment. From now on, in this room, or in this building, if an instructor asks, or if anybody, any leader asks if you've read this book, it's socially acceptable to lie and say you've read it even if you haven't. So I'm gonna ask again. By a show of hands, who's read this book? Okay, thank you.
I don't lie, that's my problem.
That's fair.
I'm not good at that.
I'll give you an out. I didn't ask if you've read the whole thing.
I read part of it.
Bingo! All right, we're good. All right. I say that somewhat in jest, and yet it's very true, because those of you that read the book, why is it so important that we all read this book?
It's like a blueprint of commonality.
Bingo. It's a blueprint or commonality in the real estate. This is the models and systems to run a successful real estate business. It's called Don't Reinvent the Wheel. Don't go and figure out how to do something when somebody else already did it, or a lot of other people did it in this case, and then Gary Keller went and interviewed them and asked exactly how they did it and put it down on paper. So the book is just absolute gold. Now, those of you that have read the book, write this down, page 133. Those of you that haven't, write this down, page 133. In other words, write it down. Page 133. If you've never read the book before, when you get your copy, just, even if you haven't read the whole thing, flip to page 133 and just start reading, about 33 pages. If you've read the book before, go back and reread those 33 pages, starting on page 133. That's where the lead generation model begins. And lead generation tends to be a dirty word. Like when I say lead generation, people are like, ugh, like that's awful. I don't want a cold call. Anybody here love cold calling? Good. I'm with all of you guys. Nobody loves cold calling. There are some sickos out there that like it, but the lead generation model starts on page 133. Now, page 134 talks about this thing called mind share. Those of you that have read through the book once, twice, 3 times, you're familiar with this idea of mind share. Those of you that haven't, and those that haven't read it in a while, I'll give you just a quick breakdown. And it starts on page 134. Mind share is it's human science that the marketing industry has been using for a long time. And they actually came up with that term in a book called Positioning, A Battle for Your Mind. It's an age-old classic in the marketing industry. Now, ironically, Gary Keller, as a realtor, wrote a book about real estate, and he quotes a book from marketing. Would you agree that our job in real estate is a marketer? Yeah, we are marketers. We market our listings, we market ourselves, we market our open houses, we market. That's what we do. And so he talks about mind share. And what mind share tells us is that the human brain is an inadequate vessel of information. That we suck at remembering things in general. We're being bombarded by marketing. And what we're going to talk about today is marketing. We're going to get practical about how to market to people. And so it's important that we're aware of mind share and really how it works. Now, what the human science goes on to say is that the human brain can only think of 7 brands in any particular category. 7, on average. In other words, if I told you to think of every potato chip brand, you'd be able to come up with 7, on average. Some of you 5, some of you might come up with 6 or 9, but on average 7. But what the science goes on to say, even deeper, is that when I said potato chips, you thought of a potato chip brand off the drop of a hat. Like something comes to mind right away that has dominant mind share. And then maybe a second brand might have dominant mind share. And then your brain will slow down to try to access the brands that you've been bombarded with over time, marketed with, to come up with other brands. And so Gary talks about this because National Association of Realtors is well aware that this is real in real estate too. Now they never really referred to mind share until this book. However, what NAR found is that when people hire a realtor, guess how many realtors they can think of?
1.
7. But here's what we know, on average. What we know is that they actually only reach out to 1 or 2 because they have the dominant mind share inside the consumer's brain. NAR every year does the study over and over again, and we talk about that. Now, here's the important part about the mind share. Mind share isn't the only reason people do what they do. And the easiest way to explain that is just a really quick activity, and some of you may have done this before. I might do it a little differently, and I think it works really well. I need everyone to think of a toothpaste brand. Okay? And on the count of 3, you're gonna yell out that toothpaste brand. Okay, you guys all ready? 1, 2, 3, go.
Colgate.
Okay. I definitely heard Crest and Colgate. Did I miss anything? Sorry about that. Okay. Dominant mind share, yes? Okay. Now, on the count of 3, name out another brand that wasn't yelled out. 1, 2, 3, go.
Pro Enamel.
Okay, I only heard like 5 people, and I think 3 people said Tom's, and I think I heard Arm & Hammer. Was that right?
Pro Enamel.
Oh, Pro Enamel. Way off. Anyone like trying to struggling to trying to come up with another toothpaste brand right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the big grocery store chain around here?
Safeway.
Safeway. Good. You guys have Safeway. So lucky. If you go into Safeway and you walk down the toothpaste aisle, would you agree you're going to see like 70 different toothpaste brands? And you could even sing the jingle of probably 5, 6, or 7 of them. But when I tell you to name a toothpaste brand, you yell out Crest or Colgate. Dominant mind share. Okay. Now here's the really fun part. What's your name?
Ann.
Ann? Awesome. Ann, without thinking, just name a car manufacturer. Go.
Ford.
Okay, cool. So Ann names Ford. Ann, did you drive a car here today?
Yes.
What did you drive?
Toyota.
Weird. How embarrassing. I'm kidding. Thanks for playing along, Ed. I'm not even going to ask because the majority of the room thought of a different car manufacturer than what you really drive. Now, some of you thought of the car manufacturer, but this is the fascinating part. Ann got into her Toyota. Did you have to put the key in the ignition?
No.
Okay, you have to unlock the Toyota to get in? Or is it in your garage?
No, it's just a handle.
The handle, okay, so you walked up to this Toyota and you got in, you didn't have to pull the key out, which is pretty awesome. And then you got in the seat, you started the car, push button, right?
Right.
Okay, and then you stared at a Toyota emblem for how long?
Forever.
Like 30 minutes did it take you to get here? And that Toyota emblem went upside down, it went right side up, it went upside down, it went right side up. You got out of the car, closed the door, locked it, whether you looked at the Toyota emblem on the keys or you touched a little thing, and then you walk up here, and 30 minutes later, I ask you to name a car manufacturer, and she says Ford. Mindshare doesn't always prevail to the use of the item. So what I mean by that is, just because a realtor has dominant mindshare with someone doesn't mean they're going to hire that realtor. Just because Ford has dominant mindshare in Ann's brain doesn't mean she's going to drive a Ford. Does this all make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So what else could lead to somebody choosing a different brand? Well, a lot of stuff. Here's the one that is not in this book, and we're talking a lot about it. It's called the law of emotional proximity. It's important to be aware of that as marketers. It's called the law of emotional proximity, and you've all known about it, you just maybe not had a name for it. What the law of emotional proximity tells us is that when you have a dire need, you look to the closest person to fill that need. Okay, I'll give you a hypothetical situation. I'm on fire. My clothes are on fire. And I see somebody 10 feet away with a bucket full of water. That person happens to be my mortal enemy. And they come running at me. Do you think I'm going to say, nope, that's cool, the fire department will be here in 5 minutes? No, I'm going to say, hit me with that water. Which I shouldn't. I should have just hit the ground and rolled, but that's another matter. The law of emotional proximity says when you have a dire need, when you're on fire, you look to the closest person to put you out. This is why so many of us that have been in the industry for a long time, has anyone here ever had like a close friend ever hire a complete stranger instead of you?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's like sticking a dagger into your heart, right? You're like, oh, that's awful. That's the law of emotional proximity. They had a dire need, a real estate need came up in their life, and they bump into a realtor buying toothpaste at Safeway, and they've got a name badge on, and they're like, oh, I need to sell my house, will you come over? See, you with me? Mm-hmm. So this law of emotional proximity in Mindshare can really determine who is going to pick the realtor that you need. Now today, what we're going to be doing as we get deeper into this is help you build Mindshare and then also combat the law of emotional proximity by using technology, using Command to market to your clients. Now, before we get deeper into that, I like to draw. Can you guys see that in the back of your?
Yeah.
Okay, what is it?
Sideways.
Squiggly lines, good, win. What else is it? A market.
Wave.
Does the market do this?
Yep.
I love it in Hawaii, no one else has
It's
a
a
wave,
wave.
but I've done this twice today. But twice, the wave, yeah. What this is, the market, it's cyclical, but it's a trend line. Okay? These can be, they're seen everywhere in all businesses. What we know is that at the apex of trend lines, something happens. Okay? Now this particular trend line is a gap of 5 to 10 years. What trend line is that now?
Talking about
I heard it. How often people are buying and selling real estate? The national average, according to NAR, is every 7 to 10 years. In California, it's 5 to 7 years. What is it here? Like, how often are people buying and selling houses here? It's good for us to know since we're in the house selling business. 7?
7 to 10.
7 to 10? Cool. Let's go with 7 years. Let's say every 7 years, someone buys a house and then they sell their house and then buy it again. So those of you that own a house, who bought their house in the last 7 years? Good, so this kind of works. Now, when someone buys a house, what happens the next day? How likely are they to buy another house?
Not like.
No, not very likely. But every day that goes along, they become more and more likely until they hit that next moment. You with me? Okay. What we've been doing in the last 50 years of real estate is we've been teaching people to do this the wrong way. And that's not our fault. It's not the industry's fault. It's just because we didn't really understand that there was another way of doing it. What we've been teaching, let me get a different color. This makes this easier. Thank you. I like purple. What we've been doing is we've been teaching realtors to go find people that fit into that area right there. We have scripts all around it. Bold teaches us these scripts. Who do you know that's looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate in the next 90 days? Right? We hear it all the time. That's why we hold open houses. It's why we call FSBOs or expireds. It's why we wear our name badges all over the place so that somebody that fits into this criteria will say, oh, I need a realtor. Is this true? We're all used to this? Okay, cool. Now, what we know today is that the gold lies right here. Let me do that again. It includes that. The gold lies there. Now, what I'm not saying is stop doing this, because there's still, that's the low-hanging fruit. However, this is where we want to catch people. Let me explain why. Another quick activity. By a show of hands here, who's going to buy a house in the next 90 days? Can I take my jacket off?
Yes.
That's right. I'd never ask. I saw one hand. Someone's buying a house in the next 90 days. Who was that? Todd? Okay, cool. Todd, you need a realtor?
Yes.
Okay, good. I have to ask. It's like our job, right? We know a couple around here, don't we? Yeah. Okay. One of us falls into this category right now. Okay, now play along with me. Everyone close your eyes and imagine. You got in your car this afternoon. And you started that Toyota. Or you drove 404. You drove here. On your way here, you stopped for gas. When you stopped for gas, you went to the gas station, you bought a lottery ticket. I don't care if you never played the lottery ticket, today you did. It was a scratcher, you got back in your car, you scratched that lottery ticket, and you won the jackpot. $3 million. Now you started that Ford back up, or Toyota, and you drove here. I have no idea why you came up here. You're now $3 million richer and you're sitting in this class. Okay, open your eyes. How's it feel? Pretty good, you're welcome. Okay. Now, let me ask again. By a show of hands, who's gonna buy a house in the next 90 days? Ah, crap, so you're telling me you went from here to there in 30 seconds. Do you have to win the lottery for that to happen? What else could take you from here to there in the blink of an eye?
Job change.
Job change.
Inheritance.
Inheritance. Yeah, when I go to job change, I think promotion or termination, right? Inheritance, maybe a death in the family.
Divorce.
Divorce.
Marriage.
Marriage. Pregnancy, planned, unplanned. These are all what we call life events. And when life events happen, when life happens, we have real estate needs. Okay, I'm not doing anything revolutionary here. You're all aware of that. What we're doing is we're changing the way that we communicate with everybody in our world that lives in this bubble, which is about 90% of our sphere of influence, 90% of our database that live in this world. We need to do a better job of becoming what we call omnipresent with our database. Omnipresent, which means we're everywhere. When they turn around the corner, they see us. When they think about real estate, they think us. It's kind of like mindshare, but it's the new age mindshare. The best way to explain this is to think about companies that do it well. Think of like the most powerful companies in the world today, like the most valuable companies. Name one.
Facebook.
Amazon, Facebook, Google.
Yeah.
One more.
Microsoft.
Microsoft. Okay, cool. Ironically, with the exception of Microsoft, every single company you guys named didn't exist 15 years ago. Some of the most, now Apple, I get it, but they were nobody 15 years ago. Like they didn't even have an iPhone yet. They had like 1% market share. Netflix, Facebook, Google, Amazon, all these companies, Microsoft was around a little bit longer than 15 years ago, but they were nobody. So how is it that all these companies in 15 years became the most powerful, valuable companies in the world? Mindshare, social media. Yes, yes.
Invention.
What's that?
Invention.
Invention, they invented things.
Tech,
Tech,
they fulfilled the need.
they fulfilled a need. They're all right answers. I'm gonna go a little deeper in tech, because that was the closest to the $1 million answer. They saw early on that through technology, they could build bigger, deeper, more meaningful relationships with us. And the way they did it, and you've heard this before, in fact, some of you may have heard me talk about it in the past, they learned how to use AI and big data to build omnipresent relationships with us. Would you agree that Amazon gets us?
Yeah.
Google gets us. More than Johnson & Johnson ever got us. More than 3M ever got us. When you go, anybody ever go to Amazon and literally before you start searching what you're looking for, on the home page was the thing you were gonna buy? Or you go on Facebook and you just bought a pair of shoes at the store and the same shoes in a different color show up on your feed? Or you go to Google and you start typing in how old is, and it finishes your sentence, Justin Timberlake. You're like, what? Everyone must be typing that. No, it's because these companies know us. They pay attention to everything we do. They pay attention to everything we buy. They pay attention to everywhere we go. And when they pay attention to that, that's what we call big data. And then they can take that data and process it in milliseconds with AI or artificial intelligence, a computer program, and then they spit out what's called an insight. And so Amazon has millions and millions of insights on each of us. They know the likeliness of us running out of toilet paper in our house. They know the likeliness of us going on vacation. In fact, they even know we're going on a vacation before our parents know we're going on a vacation, or our kids know we're going on a vacation. Why? Because they're buying our credit card statements and you can't buy a plane ticket with cash. They accumulate as much data as possible and then they create insights on that data. They create omnipresent relationships with us. Who has Netflix here? Good, everyone, yeah. And those of you that don't, you use somebody else's password, which is okay. I get it. My parents use mine. My brother uses mine. But Netflix knows a lot about us, doesn't it? Netflix probably could accurately predict how you're going to vote in the upcoming presidential election, don't you think?
Yeah.
Based on the things you watch, how often you watch them, what time of day you watch them, where you live. Do you think Netflix has a pretty good idea of how old we are?
Oh, yeah.
This is where it gets creepy. Did you know that Netflix probably has a better idea if we have a urinary tract infection than our doctor does?
Oh my gosh.
Explain more.
Way too much information.
Too much information. How? Well, Netflix pays attention every time you press pause. What happens if you start a show, 7 minutes in, you press pause, 3 minutes later, you come back and hit play? You went to the bathroom. What happens if it does it again, and again, and again?
You have kids interrupting you.
Maybe, but do you think that Netflix knows that there might be kids interrupting you as opposed to bathroom breaks? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That experience is awesome.
What if you, it's creepy.
It's creepy.
It's scary, it's awesome. It's what I call awesome.
We appreciate it, thank you.
So, I'm not saying this to freak you out, like that's not the purpose of this. The purpose of this is to really understand how insights can affect the way people do business. In other words, how we communicate with these people are based, if we use insights, if we use AI to help us communicate to these people at the right times. In other words, talk to the right people at just the right time so that you get the right thing that you need. Your business becomes easier. That's what today's about. That's what we're going to spend the next 90 minutes doing, is setting all that fun stuff up. You with me?
Yeah.
Cool. Any questions so far? Cool. Now, that leads us to this. This is the algorithm of real estate. Now, I'm in a lot of conversations with executives back at Keller Williams International. I talk to the authors of this book all the time, and this is the underlying new language that we're moving forward with. And it's because technology is changing what we're doing. Ironic part is, am I not in frame? Cool. Yeah, because this would make no sense if they can't see that. The ironic part, can you guys all see this stuff? Good. No?
Move it a little bit over.
Winner?
Thank you.
Winner, cool. The ironic part is this algorithm hasn't changed. Now, for those of you who can't interpret it, CCCFF, that's it, okay? Now, an algorithm, simplest terms, is a sequence of things to happen that when you put things through the sequence, you end up with the result that you're looking for. That's all an algorithm is. Google has algorithms to decide what to serve you with results. Facebook has algorithms to decide what shows up in your newsfeed. Algorithms everywhere. The news companies have algorithms to decide what news to put in front of you. It doesn't stop. Algorithms are everywhere. Now this algorithm is the algorithm you need to think of in real estate every day moving forward. I'm going to interpret it. You may choose to write this down. The first one, C, I'm going to give it to you. Anyone want to take a stab at it?
Contact.
Good, close.
Customer.
Close. What do we do with a customer that isn't a contact?
Call them.
You're right on. It's capture. Our job is to capture people's information. The first C is capture. Now, here's the fun part. Our database, or our sphere of influence, we've already captured their information, haven't we? Which leads us to the next one. When you capture someone's information, maybe someone you don't know, so not your sphere of influence, what is your goal once you have captured their contact information?
Cultivate them.
Ah, you're going a little further, but I like that. Connect. Yep, you want to make contact. You can think of that as connect or contact. But the Millionaire Real Estate Agent says you capture their information and then you turn them into a contact. You connect with them. Yes? Good. Now I heard the next one. Cultivate. Okay? Our job is to ultimately cultivate all of our contacts till we get to a point to where we can follow up. You're there. Now, that throws a lot of people off because a lot of people are like, wait, isn't follow-up the same as cultivate? Kind of, okay? Now, what cultivate is a system to communicate with your contacts. There's a system to communicate with contacts in this book. What is it called? 33 Touch, bingo. That is a cultivation system. That's what we're going to be working on today, is a cultivation system inside of Command but using higher forms of technology to cultivate. So when you cultivate with people, you're using a system to just systematically communicate with people. The goal of cultivating is to get to the point to where you have to personally follow up with them to set an appointment. Does that make sense? An email will never set an appointment for you, will it? So that's the difference between cultivate and follow up. The final one. Anyone? It's the F word in real estate. Fiduciary. Our end goal, your end goal should be always to get into as many fiduciary relationships as humanly possible. Because when you become a fiduciary for someone, you put their needs ahead of your own. As a realtor, what happens when you become a fiduciary for someone like 90 days later? What happens?
Paycheck.
What's that?
Paycheck.
Paycheck, yeah. You close a transaction. And fiduciary is way better than saying money. You with me? So the algorithm is you capture as many people's contact information as possible, no surprise, turn them into contacts, you cultivate them till you can follow up, and then become their fiduciary. Any questions there? You with me? I told you, nothing new here, just a different way of thinking about it. Now, I told you already that this is this, right? This is what we haven't been doing well in the past. We would turn on a 36 touch inside of eEdge, and it would send out 27 emails that our clients never opened. And that if we had 1,000 people in our database, it would send out the same email to all 1,000 people, and then it would remind us to follow up with people, like to call them 4 times a year, and we just never actually called them. How well did that work? It just didn't. I mean, if you really stayed on top of it, you could make it work a little bit, but it was just, it was hard. And so, what's the new way to cultivate? Well, the 33 touch got flipped on its head in the new book. The Millionaire Real Estate Agent 2 is coming out with a new cultivate plan. What is it called?
36.
Gosh, you guys are good. 36 touch. Genius. Any idea why they changed it from a 33 touch to a 36 touch?
It's like 6-minute ads.
It's like 6-minute ads, except they made it harder. What was this?
3 more touches.
They had 3
It's
more.
just 3 more touches. Any idea why?
The reach outs.
Just more reach outs is good, yes?
No, it was the mailing of the items of value, wasn't it?
Close.
To be more omnipresent.
So we can be more omnipresent. I like that answer, no.
Numerology.
You guys want to know the real answer?
Yes.
It's easier math. It's realtor math. If you touch your database 3 times a month,